Good to have you with us in the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate tonight. Once again, we will put the spotlight on high fuel prices, fuel taxes, and this government's fuel policy. Now, why are we talking about it just days after the central government actually cut excise duty on the fuel prices, bringing in some relief? Some of the BJP-governed states also then followed suit. This is because two union ministers at the Times Now Summit, at our network summit today, spoke about the fuel price policy. They defended the government's fuel price policy and also put the onus on the opposition. One, for now reducing VAT in the states that they govern, and two, for pushing fuel under GST. Now, the first conversation was actually with Hardeep Singh Puri, who said and justified the trajectory of prices and taxes so far. And he said that the government is only levying some of the taxes, but we also have to keep in mind the kind of challenges we faced during the pandemic. And there were additional requirements, from free ration to medical facilities to the vaccine, that had to be also catered for. And the government has behaved in a fiscally responsible manner by then charging people at this end such that the other costs can be met. He's actually gone ahead and said that removing excise completely would have been irresponsible. He's also then said that if you look at the overall rise of price during our government's time, it is far lower than what was there during UPA's era. So he's given a series of defending arguments, also blamed the UPA for burdening them with oil bonds and subsidizing fuel. Then came Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who was also asked this question. It's great that you're building all these roads, but what's the point if people can't really afford to pay for fuel to drive on these roads? And Nitin Gadkari said that you can't really compare fuel price rise or cut with elections. It is a completely deregulated market. He was then asked about what is the hitch when it comes to bringing fuel under GST, and he's putting the onus directly on states and saying states are the ones who are not allowing this to happen, who are not cooperating to bring fuel under GST. Obviously, pointing out that liquor and fuel are also the only sources of income for the states as well. But let's keep in mind that even when it comes to the current taxation structure, it's the centre and the BJP-governed states that have cut taxes. A few of the exceptions which are there, like Tamil Nadu, that had already cut some amount of tax in the last few months. Apart from that, several of the opposition-governed states haven't cut taxes. Will they? And if they don't, do they have the right then to continue questioning the centre's policy? Is there merit to what the centre is saying about excise duty, high excise tax because they need to cater to the other parts of spending, and bringing fuel under GST? Those are some of the things we'll discuss tonight. But first up, listen into Hardeep Puri.
When I was a student at the university, and that was in the year of the Lord 1973, I remember when I had to fill my two-wheeler, which was, I think, a Lambretta scooter, with petrol. The price then was, I think, ₹1.25 per liter. And I have calculated the increases in price from 73 to 79, 79 to 86, 7 years onwards. Why do I take 7 years? Because that is the period of time that the Modi government has been in office. And I can tell you with total confidence that the price increase during these 7 years has been the least of all the 7-year periods earlier. It's been 30%. And if you go to previous periods, it was 70%, so on. Maybe I'm just doing a theatrical act while looking for those figures because I remember them. Let me tell you two things. In 2010, the then Congress government deregulated petrol prices. In 2014, diesel was also deregulated. Prior to that, the price of petrol at the bunk, petrol station, was determined on the basis of an administered price mechanism. Now, I just fast forward. When we had to, in effect, a total economic lockdown on account of the pandemic, because a decision had to be made on a choice between life and livelihood. The sheer requirement of survival required that we choose life, and we were not the only ones to do it. The price of petrol at that point of time, international price per barrel, came down to $19.56, March 2020. Today, the price per barrel, I don't know, these CMDs of the oil companies are here, they would know it, but I think it should be $83, $84 per barrel. I'm looking to, it fluctuates every day. Navika ji, why do states, I mean governments, determine prices for some of these things? They don't. It's the market which determines it. If the price of petrol has gone up from $19.56 a barrel to $84 a barrel, it's the global market which is doing it. What do? We undertake a legitimate function of which any state does, is to collect some excise. What did we do with that excise? During the course of the pandemic, I think we distributed free food for 3 meals in a day to something in excess of 90 crore of our citizens. The vaccine distribution figure should be about 106 crores or 108 crores today. We have a number of programs, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Ujjwala. I mean, if I count this out, it's going to take up all the time, leaving you no time to grill me. So all I'm going to say is, we were able to navigate through very difficult times. We were able to make sure that during the pandemic, and then when we opened up, moved from life to livelihood, we opened up the economy. Today, I can tell you with confidence, the petrol and diesel offtake in overall terms is higher than pre-COVID times. Today, aviation turbine fuel, number of passengers traveling in an aircraft every day. You know, I used to be civil aviation minister, and we had to virtually close civil aviation totally and run Vande Bharat flights, and very few. We opened up from 0 to 30% to 45% and so on. And I used to say, when we reach 330 passengers a day, we will open up completely. I'm no longer the civil aviation minister, but they've opened up. Today, we are past the pre-COVID figures. Now,
so
I think we reached, let me just conclude. I think we reached a stage where the central government made up its mind long back. So, sorry, the formal answer was, the Times Now Summit. But the reality is that when a petroleum minister, who's the line minister, he's not the minister who raises taxes. The person who raises taxes is my senior colleagues, who determines excise. It's the finance minister. But the central government levies excise, the states levy VAT. Our excise on petrol and diesel has been a fixed amount throughout the period. Navika ji, it was 32 rupees a litre, irrespective of whether the price was $19.56 or it was $84. Now, I can give you a formal answer saying that as we see volumes going up, etc., we felt that, no, we had the confidence that we will do it, we will bring the price down. Timing is not determined by me. I'm too small a cog in that machine. And we also appealed to the states.
So there you heard it from Hardeep Puri. We'll also later on play you reactions and commentary coming in from Mr. Nitin Gadkari and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who's indicated that they are working on reducing taxes. Remember, Delhi hasn't reduced VAT yet after the centre's decision to cut excise. So the centre very clearly has also put the onus on opposition-governed states to bring down their own state taxes. Let's say good evening to Professor Gaurav Vallabh, national spokesperson for the Congress Party, Raman Malik of the BJP, Ved Jain, former Vice President of ASSOCHAM, Bachu Srinivas of the TRS, Om Prakash Mishra of the TMC joining me this evening. Let me actually start off with Professor Gaurav Vallabh, because Professor Vallabh, for long we've debated the high fuel taxes. And the constant battle was you first, no you first. No, you cut your tax first, no you cut your tax first. The centre seems to have taken the lead. But what about the opposition governed states?
See, Tanvi, I can give you the answer to all state by state. Punjab is the first state to have a reduction in petrol of 10 rupees per liter and diesel 5 rupees per liter. In the large state, the Punjab price of petrol in Punjab and price of diesel in Punjab per liter is lowest in the country if we compare the large states of our country. Point number one. Point number two, Chhattisgarh, the government in last 3 years had not increased the VAT at all. It was the same VAT which was there by the Raman Singh government. So we had not increased that VAT, but still I am saying the government is very soon is going to announce the reduction in the state VAT. In Rajasthan, from January 29 till date, the reduction in state VAT as far as petrol is concerned is 3 rupees per liter and diesel is 3 rupee 80 paisa per liter, and they are also going to reduce the VAT very soon. I was hearing the petroleum minister's answer in a television channel discussion. I am surprised that he is a petrol minister. He is giving an argument that I was putting that in Lambretta. I am asking him that what was the crude oil price at that time when you were putting petrol at 1.5 rupees per liter in your Lambretta? Because as per our understanding, the crude oil prices in international markets are going to determine the petrol and diesel prices. So he is making such a comparison. I can't understand. He's a petroleum minister of our country. I will give him the answer that in May 2014, the crude oil prices in the international market were $110 per barrel. In 2015, it was on an average $60 per barrel. In 2016, it was $45 per barrel. In 2017, on an average, it was $50 per barrel. Last year, it was only $30 per barrel. And instead of reduction in petrol and diesel, what government had done, Tanvi, you will be surprised that petrol per liter excise duty on petrol in 2014 was 9 rupees 48 paisa per liter,
Right.
which got increased to 32 rupees 90 paisa. So first of all, you had increased it by 23 rupees 42 paisa and then gave a reduction of 5 rupees. पहले तो आप लूट लो 23 रुपए 42 पैसे और फिर कह दो 5 रुपए आपको वापस दे रहे हैं. ये कौन सी साहूकारी है? What is this
all
happening?
of that is fine, Professor Vallabh, and I am not surprised because we've looked at this math constantly. But thank you for highlighting it again. My question to you is very simple. You cited Punjab to me. No points for guessing that this is a poll-bound state, and obviously this kind of state will be the first one to move. But why not the other states? What is Rajasthan waiting for? I'm going to ask the same question to the TMC. We asked the same question to the Aam Aadmi Party. If you are saying that the cut in excise is very small in comparison to the hike in excise that happened over the last many years, at least let's give the common man some relief now, even at the state level.
Tanvi, I am not denying that Rajasthan is not going to reduce. That is going to happen in next 5 to 7 days time, I am telling you. And no need of any haulla on this, Tanvi, because arbitrage mechanism will force states to reduce. Otherwise, the arbitrage will happen that people will go to the border, will get the tank filled and will come back. So this is a simple economics. Nobody can say that I will not reduce, because if there is a significant and substantial differences in the state prices of petrol and diesel, the arbitrage mechanism is going to force them to be substantially at the level playing field. So that is going to happen. And I am telling you that Rajasthan is going to do in next week's time.
Okay. You are saying Rajasthan is going to do, Chhattisgarh is going to do, hopefully Maharashtra also, where you are in alliance with two other political parties. Maharashtra, which already has a very extremely high percentage of VAT, and perhaps Mumbaikars paying the highest amount of tax when it comes to fuel prices. Raman Malik, fact of the matter is, it is also misleading to say that the prices have gone up the least during your tenure. The prices in effect may look like that, but that's also because the crude went down, and that gave you a fair amount of time to earn extra money by taxing us at a higher level without giving us the relief. You could have given the Aam Aadmi relief when crude went down, and you didn't.
Tanvi, first of all, let me burst the myth of Mr. Gaurav Vallabh, who generally is seen on various channels coming a little ill-prepared. he may say that his government has reduced 10 rupees. So let's take that the government of Punjab has reduced 10 rupees. What is the effective selling price today? The effective selling price of Punjab for petrol is 105 rupees and 75 paise. And Haryana, which has reduced lesser than, as per Gaurav Vallabh, than Punjab, is selling at 95 rupees and 90 paisa, give or take some paisas up and down. So it is very good to say that I have reduced 10 rupees, but effectively you're still 10 rupees higher than Haryana. That is number one. Number two, let me also enlighten him on the basic fact that his two states, Punjab and Haryana, when it comes to diesel and petrol both, are charging about 25% in Punjab and 26% in Rajasthan on diesel, inclusive of the cess, whereas Haryana is charging 16 odd percent. In petrol, we are charging around 18% in Haryana, but Punjab is charging 28% and Rajasthan is charging 36% as well. Now, my question here, number one, raises that it is good to start juggling around with numbers, but you should effectively use it. So that effective part is one. The second part is not to forget that after the 14th Finance Commission, 40 almost 41-42% of the state of the excise collected by the center goes back to the state. It is a fact. So if you minus that percentage out of the 33 odd rupees, which is 32 point something, if you take out that, that is around 18 and a half, 19 rupees, which the center is getting. And the center is also executing schemes and various things which have been accounted for. So let's come down to another fact, which he was saying, and I'm countering him with basic evidentiary fact. 29th of January 2009, the rate of petrol in Delhi was 40 rupees 62 paise. On 7th of June 2014, the amount was 71 rupees 51 paise. You can do the maths of the percentile increase. Then on 14th of March 2020, the rate was 69 rupees 87 paise, which is in contrast to the price that was being charged by the UPA government and the price being charged under the NDA government. Now today we are talking about 103 odd rupees in Delhi. Delhi government has to still reduce if they wish to. But the fact of the matter remains that the numbers do not lie, inclusive of the fact that if we take the kind of work that has been executed and the kind of non-scam period that India had, because I remember times now in the era of UPA 2 was exposing every 3 months a new scam, which is your sister channel. So my point here is that I will also discuss in your program earlier, in the next time, whenever you give me a chance next, the Committee on Pricing of Taxation, this document, which was a UPA era document, I have a lot of detail which
Okay,
I would share with Gaurav Vallabh and ask.
Let me just point out. Do you say numbers don't lie? I agree with you, but data can also be interpreted in many ways, chosen selectively to highlight the point that you want to make. You gave the example of Haryana versus Punjab. I can give you the example of Karnataka and Bengaluru versus Delhi, or even any other state right now, including Haryana. The prices there, despite the fact that in Karnataka they have cut the taxes, it's still at higher level than what you're paying in many parts of the country. So if we get stuck in that comparison, Mr. Malik, we can keep debating this all through the night. The point that I am trying to make here is simple, and it's twofold. Firstly, is the relief that's been brought in proportional to the burden that was put on people over the last couple of years and the hike that was brought on in taxes? No. Secondly, now that the centre and several of the BJP governed states have done it, why shouldn't the other states also bring in that relief? Because it is needed by the people right now. Now, I have three other panelists who haven't made their remarks, but I will give Gaurav Vallabh 30 seconds to respond to this. Yes.
Yeah. Tanvi, the gentleman is an habitual liar. And I challenge, and please ask your research team also, Tanvi. Please ask your research team also. He is giving an example of Punjab versus Haryana. I am having in front of me the Punjab rates of diesel and Haryana rates of diesel per litre today. Punjab today diesel is available at 83 rupees 75 paisa. And in Haryana it is 87 rupees 11 paisa. He is giving misleading, wrong. He is a liar. In petrol, the Punjab price per petrol is 95 rupees per litre, whereas he is quoting 105 rupees. Again a liar. He is a habitual liar. He comes to various channels and makes these type of statements. And please ask your research team, because your viewers should know that he is a liar. And he is an habitual liar. I am challenging him. That
and what about Rajasthan, sir?
Please don't shout, liar.
No, sir. If you're
Please
casting personal aspersions on me,
don't shout.
no. If you're casting personal
I'm challenging you.
I have a right to rebuttal.
Please, Tanvi, ask your research team to give the exact data. Because I gave the data. Now this liar is not having any answer to my question.
Allow me to look into this and come back. But Professor Gaurav Vallabh, let's not make personal attacks. You are calling out Mr. Raman Malik on the facts he's presented. You can counter it with what it is.
He's saying that he's a habitual liar. It's casting personal aspersions.
Yes, which is not okay. Which is not okay. I agree. Let's all calm down. Let me present some facts. Let me present some facts to both of you, and I'm going to make this. I am making some of these facts basis the argument that was presented by the minister today. He said that the price increase in the last 7 years is the least in any 7-year period since 1970. But while that is correct, one also has to keep in mind that the fall in Brent crude price, which is the base for petrol and diesel, that the fall in the Brent crude price internationally has also happened only in the current 7-year period. Brent crude increased in all other periods since 1993. The argument that was also made is that excise remained constant throughout, irrespective of prices. But that's not true, because the tax collection on petrol and diesel actually jumped 459% in these 7 years. The argument about excise versus VAT, that excise duty does not increase with the prices but VAT does, well, the share of excise in fuel retail price is actually much higher already. So one has to also keep that in mind. Prices are determined by free market is the argument the government often gives to us, and while that is true on paper, we know that is not true in practical reality, because with an increase in demand, we see fuel prices, because the fact is that what happens in free market happens to us when it's going up, but not when it's going down. You don't see that relief coming in. And whether it's going up or down doesn't matter if your state or your country is actually going to election at that point, then all kinds of price cuts are actually announced. So some of the arguments that have been presented, oil bonds argument, the current government constantly says that they're still paying dues for the oil bonds that were issued by the UPA government. The fact of the matter also is that just 2% of the total excise revenue from petrol and diesel can be used to pay for the oil bonds. It's not as big a burden as it is being made out. Of course, it is a burden and it's a legacy of the UPA. But can that be constantly used for all this time to justify the high taxes? No, it cannot be used. Now, let me go across to our other panelists on this conversation, and I'm going to ask Mr. Ved Jain. Mr. Ved Jain, the argument being presented also is that you need this extra money to use it elsewhere. What is your response to this argument that we wanted to give free vaccines, which is why we tax you more for fuel?
See, let me answer this question. If my two friends from the both political party can bear with me. In 2010 and 2014, we decided that petrol and diesel prices will be run by the open market positions. It's a free market position and it will not be a controlled price. And it continued until I think 2019, when the prices in 2020 started falling. the government thought that the prices have gone down too low and let us make some money out of it and taxes out of it, so prices have gone down on that part. If the question is that in case the government had decided to levy taxes because the prices have gone down, then we have taken a U-turn on the policy that it is a free market driven. It's a market driven. It was not a market. So the benefit which was supposed to be passed on to the consumer because of the low prices internationally was not passed on. Now, in case the government has of the day was of the view that the money is required for this pandemic, collection need to be up because collection on other direct and indirect taxes were going down. The government of the that day was well within its right to say so. But now, since the prices in the international market have gone up, corresponding decrease is required to make sure that we come back again to this policy. Because what is happening is, in a way, we are saying that we are giving some concession to the common man by way of saying free vaccine or other vaccine, etc. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact that a common man is also bearing the burden of these higher taxes on the petrol and diesel. The prices have gone down or gone up. The problem is that agriculture produce has to be carried through some truck and trolley, and that petrol and diesel that goes out, the freight is the major part. So is the common man using all these issues. So all prices going up, you are giving from one pocket and taking it away from the another pocket. So that equation need to be taken care of somewhere. As regard the issue between the center and states, I believe that center has a fixed percentage of the excise duty, fixed amount of the excise duty. And states, by and large, are following a percentage of tax on the petrol price plus excise duty. In case the excise duty goes down, I believe the percentage of tax automatically of the state goes down. As I can see now, the petrol prices have been reduced by 10 rupees. If the state is levying taxes at 25%, so 2 rupees 50 paisa automatically goes out of the state pocket. So somewhere, I believe, I am of the opinion that the government should take a policy decision where they can say, all right, price of the petrol and diesel, we believe should be 80 rupees or 90 rupees. If it goes down, we will increase the excise duty or the taxes to be shared equally or whatever the ratio they may have between center and state. But if it goes up beyond that, then the taxes will be reduced. So the common man do not suffer and the common man has not to pay more. So
Right.
80 rupees or 90 rupees, whatever consensus, you can work it out and be honest to the people of the country on that part. That's my suggestion.
Mr. Jain, you've made two very valid points, and of course, this suggestion is something that the government perhaps should look at in times like this. But also more importantly, what you said about giving relief at this point, I want to pick up on that and go across to Mr. Srinivas, because Mr. Srinivas, let's for a moment say, okay, we're not really talking about 2 years ago or even 10 years ago. Let's look at the situation right now, where we are still trying to get out of the post-pandemic effect. Economy is just about moving. Consumer sentiment is just about turning around. You need to give some relief to people. Shouldn't states and center work together to do that?
Definitely, Tanvi, as you said, it is correct to give relief to the common man in the case of petrol and diesel. But one thing in the state of Telangana in 2014, it is 33.5, and we increased once, that is 35% VAT. Till date, it is 35% only. In the last 7 years only, once we increased. It is a tough situation in Telangana to decrease the VAT percentage, and the state central government has increased like anything. It has to be go down still, because when it was 140 rupees, the crude oil barrel in the international market, the petrol price it is just 70 rupees in the UPA government. It is only 80 rupees, as he is telling, after the fluctuation from 13, 14, 20 rupees to it is today just 82 rupees average in the last 1 year. If we consider it, it is almost all 3,000 3 lakhs 3,45,000 crores they are getting on petrol cess to the central government. They have to decrease. If they talk about the oil bonds also, it is only 10,000 crores per annum.
Yes.
They have not yet paid any oil bonds amount to the oil companies. If the maturity comes in the 2026, I believe, even it comes also, the central governments can pay the total amount at a time, but they are not paying, only they are paying annual amount, that is 10,000 crores. Still the government is having, central government is having the cushion or possibility to reduce the tax on the petrol and diesel because the crude oil price is very low. So from Telangana government, from Telangana side, we cannot reduce less than this because we have not increased earlier, only once in the last 7 years.
Okay, since you say you haven't raised it only once in the last 7 years, you don't have scope to reduce it. Mr. Om Prakash Mishra, but the point that we are trying to make repeatedly is that right now people need some more relief. The one set of states have taken the lead, the central government has. Is it not the responsibility of even the West Bengal government to do so? How are people going to go about paying, prices not just to drive their car or their two-wheeler or the cab, but also to buy anything else, from your vegetables and fruits to eating out or to run your own businesses? You will need that kind of money.
Thank you, Tanvi. I'm into the debate after 31 minutes. Nonetheless, since the entire premise of the debate is on what the failed civil aviation minister, who is now the petroleum minister, had to say, I'm sorry to say that he actually has got his history and his economics all mixed up. He talked about 7 years period. Very simple. 2014, what was the crude price? Others have already pointed out, you have also pointed out, I'm not getting into that. And what it is today in the international market. So therefore, to try to make impossible comparisons, that is logically, fallacious. Secondly, I would like to mention that, we all need to have some understanding about the type of center-state financial distribution under the Constitution of India. We all know that it is completely, in a big way, it is tilted toward the center. There are definite reasons for that. So therefore, when we are discussing price rise, we are discussing taxation, then we also have to think in terms of the distribution of the central or the union government's resources. Union government has collected almost about 4 lakh crore rupees out of the oil product taxes. But then has it been giving it to the states in an equitable and in a proportionate way? Actually not. Thirdly, you are correct that the states have also been gaining. They have also gained, and they have also been a participant in what you may call that, when the prices were gone down, the taxes were right. But what is the percentage proportion? In fact, the gain for the state is actually very slow, or it has increased only very little as compared to that for the center. So therefore, all these factors are very much important and essential. Now, coming to the question of reduction, and possibly you are thinking of me here and in terms of West Bengal, I'll tell you that if you go to the market, then the sellers are, upping the price by 50%, and then they're giving you a discount of 15%. So that type of a situation is prevailing here. And secondly, fourthly, Mr. Jairam Thakur, everybody is grateful to him because it is he who actually linked up the dismal performance of BJP when they have been just routed in Himachal and said that all this is because of the prices. And our petroleum minister does not know that the increment in the prices actually affects everything else. So it is not only petrol and diesel.
So
what about cooking gas?
Right.
So the prices have been increasing. With regard to West Bengal, to the extent that BJP has done it for political reasons because they are going for the election. So if they continue to, decrease it even after the election, for which they are going to be defeated, we will see. And definitely West Bengal is one of the most human government here. Public administration, public policy, they are completely synchronized very well here. and we are responsible, and we will do whatever is
So
needed
let
and
me
necessary.
though say one thing. Since you made those comments about the petroleum minister, in petroleum minister's own words, do remember that he doesn't get to decide on taxes. It's the finance minister who will get to decide on the taxes.
Articulating, so
He
therefore
can only defend the government's policy. What choice does he have? But I do remember that Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, when he was the fuel minister, was to constantly talk about how this needs to be brought under GST. I mean, that's as much as they can say, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. But let me just go back on the argument that Professor Vallabh and Raman Malik were having. Now, my team tells me that Haryana's petrol price today is 95.27 per litre and diesel 86.51. Punjab pretty much the same actually. Petrol price 95.63 and diesel price 84.42. So Haryana does have a higher diesel price. Petrol, both of them are similar. Punjab reduced VAT on petrol by 10 rupees and on diesel by 5 rupees, and Haryana reduced VAT on both petrol and diesel by 12 rupees. So even though Mr. Malik, Haryana did do a bigger reduction, you're pretty much on the same level of prices as Punjab is. Irrespective, let's talk about the larger conversation. How
Let's
will we
talk about
get the
Rajasthan
states?
also.
How will we, like
Let's
I
talk
said,
about
even
Rajasthan,
you,
Maharashtra.
I was asked to bring this data and I have. Like I cautioned you earlier as well, if we get into comparing, then somebody will say, now bring Karnataka also, now you bring Telangana also, Maharashtra also.
Sri Lanka and Bangladesh.
The higher, the bigger
Bangladesh.
idea here, Mr. Malik, is
For you,
when can we
Bangladesh
get
is very
all
important,
states?
sir, because
Today,
that's a vote
Mr.
bank.
Nitin Gadkari also said
You
it's
are-
the
you are
states
quite-
which are
you are
blocking
quite the fool that
bringing
you
fuel
are.
under GST.
That is why you have just been caught lying. Sorry, he actually got caught lying here, isn't it?
No, what did you say? Tanvi, what did he say?
So
What
you
is
have
the kind of
actually been
language
caught
you use?
lying. So you are thinking in terms of comparison. So the comparison has no end. You can bring in the neighboring countries. What do you mean by Bangladesh? Bangladesh is an important country for this, for our nation.
Bangladesh
Prime
is
Minister
another
went
country,
there.
sir. For
Prime
you,
Minister is
for
praising
you, it
that
is a
all the
vote bank.
time. Don't you know?
And
You have
you
no
have used a
idea.
very
And
foul
so
language.
therefore,
If I start
you
calling
started
you
by
names,
saying Gaurav
Okay,
Ballabh
okay,
is not
okay.
prepared. He's not prepared. That is very
Mr.
poor
Mishra,
on your
Mr.
part.
Mishra, Mr.
I
Mishra,
do not
we
know
made
what
the
you
correction.
talking
We have put out the correct data here for Mr. Raman Malik to also know. Let's not stretch that matter. A very crucial aspect is yet to be debated, which is where Nitin Gadkari said that it's the states which are blocking bringing fuel under GST. Now, it's a very well-known fact that it's not just the opposition-governed states, Mr. Raman Malik, but even the BJP-governed states are not in favor of this because they fear loss of revenue. How are we going to tackle this challenge?
See, the basic point is that let's first start talking on the premise that what is the actual effective selling rate. On the 5th, the rates were there. After the pressure came in, maybe Mr. Channi had to do something, but on the contrary, whether it is Rajasthan or whether it is Chhattisgarh or Maharashtra where they have done nothing, or the other states also. So let's talk about the basic premise. The basic premise is that if 18%, let's say 16% on petrol, on 18% on 18.4% on petrol, Haryana can survive. Why is it difficult for the others to come to those levels? Why is it important for them to charge 25%, 26%, 30%, 36%? What is the need? There can be some rationale brought to it. But
Mr. Malik, my question to you is very clearly on GST. I am a little short on time. I am simply asking you, why don't BJP-governed states also agree to bring fuel under GST?
Let them propose now, Tanvi.
Let them propose. As far as the Congress party is concerned, I just spoke to Mr. Chidambaram a few days ago, and he says that the GST Council doesn't even listen to what the states want to propose. You take decisions by yourself and implement them.
Let them come with an effective proposal stating that this is what they propose, even if they are proposing.
This is hilarious.
take a higher
This is hilarious.
GST.
The BJP
Instead of
spokesperson have been
28%,
talking
they
about
say,
it.
okay,
Now
maybe
what Mr. Malik is
13%,
saying is hilarious.
30%. अरे मिश्रा जी
नहीं
फिर आप नहीं दिखा
आपको
रहे
तो
हो ना.
पता नहीं आपके
I can
spokesperson
also
लोग
give
क्या
you
बोलते
your
हैं, आपको
Okay,
language.
पता ही
okay,
नहीं
okay,
है।
okay. 1
आप
minute.
क्या
Okay,
बात कर रहे हो?
so the BJP here has said something very interesting. I know 3 people want to comment on that one by one. Mr. Jain, I also see your hand. Om Prakash Mishra first, Professor Gaurav Vallabh, and then we'll go to Mr. Ved Jain as well. Yes, Mr. Mishra, what are you saying?
Very simply put, the center-state financial relations possibly needs a relook.
Yeah.
We had the GST, the regime is on. We know how many times amendment has to be carried out, more than 500 times. Gaurav Vallabh knows it quite well. Hardly, when you think in terms of trying to reduce the tax source of the state, then you have to think in terms of the proportionality. And you should know, all of us should know, that India is a union of states. It is not that Rajasthan does something, that is why Kerala has to do. That is just because West Bengal, we have so many pro-poor schemes. Will the union government actually be implementing that? Will be Uttarakhand government will be implementing that? So therefore, by BJP at times they try to imply that there is no need and necessity for the state government, but that this is a constitutional arrangement. And my party, TMC, we are actually committed to protect and uphold the Constitution of India and the
That is
constitutional
why you
scheme.
have syndicate and cut money.
Okay, one by one. Professor Gaurav Vallabh's turn now. Yes.
Tanvi, I will give a very interesting data for your viewers.
Yeah.
Currently, excise duty charged by Government of India on petrol is 27 rupees 90 paisa per liter. And Tanvi, out of 27 rupee 90 paisa, 20 rupee 50 paisa is cess. So in cess, states are not having anything.
Correct.
Cess goes directly in the kitty of Government of India. Now coming to diesel, Tanvi, currently the excise duty which Government of India collects per liter on diesel is around 22 rupees. And the entire thing is in the form of cess. So there is no share of state government. Coming to the GST, I am giving a very interesting and important statement, Tanvi, that please clear the earlier dues. Please create an environment of confidence. Maharashtra, I am giving an example, 15,000 crore rupees is due with Government of India. That is the GST due, which Government of India is not releasing. So you had spoiled the relationship, the confidence level which was required for the state for taking the GST to the next level. You had spoiled that confidence level. First of all, restore that confidence level by releasing the earlier dues. Tamil Nadu also have a big due. The Rajasthan government also has a big
Same thing
due.
about
And
West Bengal.
Not only
West
Congress,
Bengal.
not only Congress,
Yes.
even West Bengal, even Gujarat also.
Yeah, the big contributors, to the tax
Nirmala
central
said
tax.
act of God.
To the big contributors to the central taxation who are not getting their percentage of it, and those dues keep on building up, have had this complaint for a while, which also becomes a big hurdle then for these states to agree to bring GST to bring fuel under GST. Mr. Jain, you wanted to make a point. Yes.
See, Mr. Tanvi, my friends are taking a political stand.
Yes.
But we must appreciate a ground reality of the economy of India.
Correct.
Now, the center and state, both budget have become highly dependent on the taxes which are being collected on petrol and diesel. Now, the center and state both have to meet the target of the expenditure they have to incur. And to say now that the taxes on petrol and diesel which are being collected will be drastically reduced so that overall collection goes down, it is impossible for center and state both to agree to that point. Now, when you talk about GST levy, as we all agree that the total cost of the petrol production is 44 rupees per liter and 3-4 rupees is the commission of the dealer. On 48 rupees and the price is 100 rupees, then almost more than 100% GST rate will be there, which cannot be applied because 28% is the highest GST rate. And even if we impose a cess of maybe 50%, then it still be less than the collection. Now, in this scenario, to have a consensus on that issue will be very, very difficult. But there can be a via media which can be worked out and which should be a good economic policy both for center and states. What they can work it out, as I suggested earlier, they fix a price that the petrol and diesel prices will be kept at 80 to 90 rupees and whatever it is.
Right.
So whatever is the production cost and the dealer commission, the difference will be shared between the center and the states. Now, looking to the political landscape today, it may be difficult for the various states and the center to come to a consensus the way I have come to a consensus in GST. I have another option to the center for that purpose. The center can say, okay, let's work it out that we want that the prices of the petrol and diesel should be 85 rupees or 90 rupees. 48 rupees is the cost. Our excise duty presently will be 16 rupees or 18 rupees, and the state will be levying 25 to 30% of the taxes or thereon. The rate will be 85 rupees. In case the cost goes down from 45 rupees to 40 rupees, our excise duty will go up by 75% above on that.
Mr. Jain, you know,
so
all the permutation combinations that you're suggesting perhaps would be viable only in an ideal world where the states and the center have that kind of trust on each other to agree on this and have a conversation. We're looking at a scenario where the states feel cheated because while the center reduces the excise, it brings in a cess, so the center's coffers don't get impacted, but the states do. Unfortunately, that's what is happening, but maybe another day we will have a detailed conversation on what are the other solutions. For now, I'm completely out of time. So thank you to all of the panelists, Mr. Jain for bringing his expertise and the political representatives to tell us what is the next course. And clearly now today we've heard it from Gaurav Vallabh that Rajasthan may also and Chhattisgarh may also look at cutting their taxes on fuel. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said it at the Times Now summit that they too are working on a plan to cut taxes. For some of the states who've not got the full benefit, like the BJP governed states, perhaps more relief is on its way. In fact, let's also play you out an excerpt of the conversation we had with Mr. Nitin Gadkari, where while we spoke to him more about his own ministry and the extent of road construction that is going on across the country, we also did ask him, what's the point of all of these roads and great roads if the fuel becomes so expensive that people are not able to drive on these roads? Here is what he had to say about the government's fuel policy.
Gadkari ji, I hope all these roads are built. देखिए हमारे यहाँ जो सभाएं भी हैं वो खुश हो रहे हैं, मगर रोड बहुत बन रहे हैं, आप बना भी रहे हैं, मगर इन रोडों पे गाड़ी चलाना थोड़ा महंगा पड़ रहा है। और हम यहाँ पर सब जब पंप में जाते हैं तो 1000 रुपए का पेट्रोल एकदम सुई नहीं हिलती।